Close your eyes and relax. You don't have to do anything. In fact, perhaps the most interesting thing about the mind is that it can learn without trying, just as you learned thousands of things before you ever understood how learning worked. So for these next few moments, there is nothing to fix, nothing to prove, nothing to achieve. You can simply become curious about another possibility, and perhaps you can imagine somewhere beyond ordinary time. There is a version of you who entered this world and was immediately received with love, not because she earned it, not because she behaved perfectly, simply because she existed, and perhaps you don't even need to see her clearly. You can simply wonder, what would it feel like to have always been wanted, to have arrived in a world that seemed to say, there you are, we've been waiting for you, you belong here. Imagine being very small and the people around you are calm. In fact, this person could be you. There is warmth in their voices. When you cry, someone comes. When you're frightened, someone notices. When you need comfort, arms appear. And because this happens again and again, something extraordinary begins happening inside that developing brain. It learns people can be safe. My needs matter. I am allowed to take up space. And perhaps that little girl never needs to put those things into words. Her body simply knows. She sleeps deeply because someone else is watching over her world. She plays because she doesn't have to monitor everything. She laughs loudly, she gets messy, she explores, she asks questions, she makes mistakes, and mistakes are simply mistakes. When she spills something, someone gets a cloth. When she gets something wrong, someone helps her learn. When she cries, nobody tells her she's too much. When she's excited, nobody makes her smaller, and now she's 5, 6, 7. She learns to understand her body. Her body tells her when it needs nourishment, and she trusts it. There is no shame around her body, no war. Her body is simply the beautiful vehicle carrying her through childhood. And money? Money is something the adults handle calmly. Bills get paid. Things are planned for. Sometimes they buy things. Sometimes they decide not to. She learns that life provides many possibilities. Resources can come and go and come again. There are always solutions. She expects life to contain opportunities. Now watch her growing older, 8, 10, 12, and notice something fascinating about this girl. She's not constantly wondering whether she's good enough. The question barely occurs to her. She assumes she belongs. She walks into rooms expecting to have a place there. She doesn't study everyone's face looking for rejection. She doesn't need everyone to like her. Some people do, some don't, and somehow she remains herself. She chooses friends who feel good to be around. Her nervous system recognizes love as warmth, consistency, availability, respect, kindness, peace. And perhaps you can allow those words to sink somewhere deeper. Warmth, consistency, availability, respect, kindness, peace. This is what love feels like. And now she's becoming a young woman. Notice the way she carries herself. Not arrogantly. She simply has nothing to apologize for. She doesn't walk through life thinking, please choose me. Something inside her already feels chosen, and she continues living because love was never something she had to extract from unavailable people. Love was her beginning, her baseline, her home, and perhaps the unconscious mind can begin becoming curious about this distinction now. Peace can be passionate, consistency can be exciting, being chosen can feel natural, and you may wonder how differently someone moves through life when she expects mutual love. She notices available people, she notices kindness, she notices opportunities, she notices open doors, because the brain tends to notice what it has learned to expect. So perhaps it can begin expecting something different now. Imagine her at 20, 30, 40, and beyond. Watch how she handles money. She doesn't believe every financial difficulty means catastrophe. She thinks, plans, creates, asks, learns, receives, tries again. She understands that money is a resource, not a verdict on whether God or life loves her. And because she doesn't approach opportunity from desperation, she can see possibilities that fear might have hidden. She can create value. She can be paid well. She can receive. She can save. She can enjoy. She can give. And there is a wonderful rhythm between receiving and releasing. Money comes, money goes, money can come again. Opportunities appear, new ideas appear, people appear, solutions appear. And abundance begins to mean far more than money, time, friendship, ideas, beauty, food, nature, laughter, love, opportunity, rest, creativity, connection. There is so much life. And perhaps now you can do something unusual. Imagine stepping into her, not watching anymore. Step inside, see through her eyes, breathe through her lungs, feel the ground beneath her feet, and notice these are your feet now. This is your body. This is your life. Perhaps you don't need to pretend the past was different. The unconscious mind understands imagination. It understands rehearsal. It understands repetition. And it can discover, I can have a history without continuing to live from it. You are allowed to keep the wisdom and release the prediction. The past can become information instead of instruction. And imagine waking tomorrow morning without immediately consulting yesterday about who you're supposed to be. How would you stand? How would you eat? How would you dress? How would you spend your morning? What would you stop chasing? What would suddenly seem beneath your peace? What would become possible if you expected good things without demanding them? Perhaps you'd walk differently. Perhaps you'd look into the mirror differently. Perhaps another person's attention would simply be pleasant rather than proof that you exist. Perhaps you'd create. Perhaps you'd laugh more. And perhaps there would be moments when the old programming spoke. Of course. But imagine hearing it the way you might hear an old radio playing in another room. Familiar, but no longer authoritative. There isn't enough. Old radio, you're going to be abandoned. Old radio, you need this person. Old radio, something is wrong. Old radio, and underneath it, something newer, quieter, steadier begins broadcasting. I am here. I belong here. There is room for me in this world. I don't have to chase what is meant to meet me. Love comes toward me. Opportunity come toward me. Good people exist. Good experiences exist. There are possibilities I haven't even encountered yet. And perhaps the deepest realization is this: you don't need to know exactly how everything happens. A child who feels safe doesn't wake every morning demanding proof that life will work out. She gets up and lives. So imagine living that way now, openly, getting sunlight, working, enjoying movement, unexpected conversations, little opportunities, ordinary pleasures, and one day you may suddenly notice you respond differently to old triggers. You feel an unfamiliar peace and then realize, oh, this is becoming familiar. Safety is familiar. Love is familiar. Being respected is familiar. Being wanted is familiar. Having choices is familiar. Receiving becomes familiar. Peace becomes familiar. And perhaps the mind doesn't need to erase an old identity. Perhaps identities disappear naturally when they're no longer rehearsed, like pathways through grass when nobody walks them anymore. And elsewhere, a new path becomes clearer every time you choose yourself, every time you rest without guilt, every time you receive kindness, every time you don't chase, every time you nourish your body, every time you handle something calmly, every time you create, every time you notice something beautiful, every time you allow somebody else to carry something, every time you think there may be another way, the new path strengthens. until perhaps one day, without ceremony, you realize you're no longer trying to become that loved little girl. She grew up and she became you, a woman who knows, I was born worthy of love. I am allowed to feel safe in ordinary life. I expect relationships to be reciprocal. I am comfortable receiving. I can create abundance without exhausting myself. I don't need chaos to feel alive. I don't need longing to feel love. I don't need scarcity to motivate me. I don't need suffering to earn goodness. And somewhere deep inside, perhaps there is a child discovering that she doesn't have to watch the door anymore. Someone capable is here, you, and she can play now, she can create, she can dream, she can rest, because the adult you can handle today, and today is where your life is happening, not back there, here. And perhaps from now on, whenever the old world tries to pull you backwards, you can quietly ask, what would the woman who grew up deeply loved expect here? Not what would she force or chase, what would she expect? And then behave from that expectation, one decision at a time, one day at a time, until the unfamiliar becomes familiar, the familiar becomes automatic, and what once felt like another woman's life simply feels like mine. Take one slow breath, and somewhere inside, allow these final words to settle. My past explains some of my patterns. It does not get to write my future. I am teaching my mind what love feels like. I am teaching my body what peace feels like. I am teaching myself what enough feels like. And I am building my life from here. And when you're ready, come back gently, bringing that feeling with you.